What's up, Facebook? How are you doing? Let me talk about it. Like them. Got a bunch of them. Come on, you things. I do whatever it takes. Better turn that off so I don't get busted by the Facebook police. How are you doing? You know what I say. I hope you're doing good. 'Cause when you feel good, you do good. So let's all feel good. I'm back. We're back. It's Driven. We had a little bit of a break, and I needed it. There was a lot of snow, and I had to go enjoy it. So we're back now. We're running. We're rocking and rolling. What is this? This is episode 17 with Jon Miller from Backcountry United. I named it Stewardship, and I think you'll like that. Go ahead, drop in the comments where you're from, where you're tuning in from tonight. I do appreciate everybody that comes on here. What are you going to get out of this one? Number one, you're going to get to see what Backcountry United is and what they're doing. Number two, you're going to get to meet Jon Miller and hear a unique story and how he went after his passion. Number three, let's talk about why are our National Forests so awesome. That's what we're talking about tonight. So tune in, sit down, share this out, invite your friends, put it to your groups. I appreciate it. It's how we grow this project. It's how we have some fun. And let's get interactive. Drop your name, drop where you're from in the comments. Let me know where you're tuning in from. If you know me, you know what you're going to get. If you don't know me, my name is Scott. I'm a dad, I'm a sledder, and I got my vision set on exactly what means the most to me. And I didn't for a long time. I was just cruising through life, just taking things as they come. And pretty soon, what's up, Marty? Thank you. There we go, EJ. Pretty soon it caught up to me, and it's like, wait a minute. I'm not doing what I want to be doing, and I'm not living the type of lifestyle that I want to be living. Let's make some changes. Let's do what we can to get that going in the right direction, get the wheels turning. How about that? Drop some thumbs on there if you're ready to get your wheels turning and moving in the direction you want to go. That's what Driven's about. This is Driven. I created it for a place for people to come in, to connect, to grow their network, grow their mindset, and have some fun along the way. So what are we doing tonight? We're talking to Jon Miller. I'm going to bring him up in a minute. While we do that, let me share a little information with you. Have you ever felt like there's something else out there for you? There's that something that, maybe you're doing something you really enjoy. I do something I really enjoy for a full-time job. I have a wonderful job. But there's something out there I know that has my passion, and I know that I could better give myself to and give my energy to and bring the fire with it. And that's what I'm talking about. It's that thing in your mind, that passion that you got inside you that wants you, that you want to go do something that you're super passionate about, but maybe you're stuck over here. We're going to dive into a little bit about the decision to go from, okay, I got a great job, I'm comfortable over here, but I'm going to move over to my passionate side. I'm going to do something that fulfills me, that builds my legacy. What's up, Dash? Brandon, thank you. Tyler, appreciate you coming in too. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. Can you feel me on that? Do you know dude, blessed if you're already living that lifestyle. I gotta give it to you. What's up, buddy?
Hi. Can I get food coloring and put it in water?
No.
Then I'm gonna drink.
That's a mess.
I don't like
What do you think? Food coloring, water, unsupervised? No. That'll be a project to do with me. Okay? Go. All right, we're back at it. Little adulting there. It's all good. Normally I'd have been like, yeah, let's get the food coloring and do it. But I'm with you guys tonight. Let's have some fun. I hit mindset and I hit personal development a lot in here because truthfully, that's kind of what turned the ship for me. I was, we'll say I was lacking in a few areas. I didn't realize some of the things I was doing, some of the habits I'd picked up, and some of the characteristics I was putting out into the world. I didn't even recognize them. And I dove into some personal development, and I dove into some books, and I started to see that this track of things that was following me was probably from my doing. And I was like, Oh, I totally see myself doing that. So that's where this comes from. Driven comes from a place of growing to be better, opening your mindset up, and learning some new things, meeting some new people that hopefully maybe get you to where you want to go, and maybe a little quicker along the way. That's what it is. How's everyone doing tonight? I got a bunch of people on here tonight. Frank, thank you. Appreciate that share. Listen to Frank, very smart guy. Share this out. Dash, again, was a pipe fitter welder. Now I slid. There it is, man. That's what I'm talking about. Was something that you were doing to where you could get to where you could do what you wanted to do. Way to go, Dash. Let's connect. I'd love to hear your story. So the purpose of this one is to give you some insight on what it means to quit maybe a badass job. Our guest tonight, Jon Miller, by every definition of the mean, had a pretty badass job. But there was something inside of him, something bigger that he wanted to accomplish, and it took a leap of faith, and it takes a lot of try every single day, even to this day, still growing, still in the process. We're going to dive into a little bit about what it takes to make that jump. Updates, what are we talking about here? What's going on? I've been busy the last couple weeks. We've been, I don't know, like 18 days since we've done Driven, which is like the longest ever. We went about 24, shared like 20 places. I love it when you do that, John. Thank you. And John, if you haven't heard, I'm going to get to that in just a second. Been about 18 days since I've done a Facebook Live with Driven, and you know, I missed it. Last week it was kind of weird. I felt like I was not giving you guys what you wanted. I'm like, man, is it selfish of me not to do it? And I'm like, well, I got to go ride in the morning. I got to get all my stuff ready. It's like the last trip I'm going to make, and so I opted for snowmobile because this show's about as much about doing stuff as it is about talking about doing stuff. So last couple weeks I've been dove in, really getting the store set up, getting it ready to go. I'm excited to show you guys some of the stuff we've been creating behind the scenes. Let me know. We're gonna put it out. Maybe I'll throw it out and gather some emails, and then when we launch, I'll do a good deal inside that store so you can get some gear at a price. Kind of felt weird. I know, right? I was like, all week, I'm like, there's gonna be so many people pissed at me. There's gonna be so many people pissed at me, but it's all good. We're back. You know I'd come back. So going good on the store, going good on the branding side of things. I'm getting into the graphic a little bit, and it's a lot of work. Trading files. Is it an AI file? I'm just talking about stuff here that I've been doing the last couple weeks to keep me going. So it was the snowiest March on history. After the longest and driest winter ever, in March it decided to snow. We missed it. Yeah, I know what that feels like. The last month in March, we literally went from no snowpack to 15 feet of snowpack. So we went and we got every bit of it out of it that we could, or that I personally could, and it was absolutely amazing. Best month ever. Some of the best conditions I've ever rode in happened like consecutively. Like, oh, back up the day with 5 feet of new snow and bluebird skies, and it's probably going to be about 35, 40 degrees. It was perfect conditions several times. I miss you by that. So I'm super thankful I was able to do that. I was able to ride with some new people, and one thing I want to point on is we went and we took a great ride. We accessed an old Jeep trail that had kind of been, it was stuck in legislation for about 6 years. The marking's been deteriorated, and it's kind of getting lost in translation, and fewer and fewer people know about the trail, but it's pretty cool because it connects a pretty popular Tahoe riding area to another pretty popular Tahoe riding area, and it goes right through a wilderness section that if we lose that access, we'll lose the ability to go from one pass to the other forever, and we'll never get it back. I mean, we're lucky it came out of legislation and it opened back up to us. But we took a full day, a buddy and I, John Jovette, JTG Photos. Go check him out. I'll drop a comment, or I'll drop it in the comments later. Check out his page. But we were able to connect those dots. We went from Carson Pass, which is Highway 88, drove all the way down, and we connected it to Ebitz Pass, Highway 4, to the Bear Valley Recreation Ski Area. Super cool ride, super awesome. So that was totally fun. I did that last week, and I loved it. How's everybody doing tonight? Who all do we got on? Shandor, what's up, brother? You're on Facebook again. Marty, William, Brandon, I love you. Thank you guys all. Tony, how you doing? John's on. We're going to bring him up. Before I bring him up, share this out, and we're going to get into this interview. As I bring him on, I want to say how we met just real quick. I didn't know John till just about a month ago. He had watched a Driven episode. He reached out to me. He's like, man, I love what you're doing. I appreciate it. He's like, I was reading somebody else's message. He's like, how can I help you? And I'm like, man, come on the show. That's the way you can help me. And so we got to talk, and we had several wonderful conversations. But I'm just blown away by his story, and I know you're going to get some value out of this story, and I'm not going to tell it. I'm going to let him share it, so I'm going to bring him on. I'm going to pause, share this out while I bring him on. John, let's do this. Invite. Nope, wrong button. I invited him to watch. He was already watching. Invite him to come on the camera. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, where you at, John? Uh-oh. John, be sure your phone is turned in the landscape mode. Maybe get out and come back in and turn your phone sideways. It's saying I can't let you in. Gravy! We practiced this last night in the private group. So things like this don't. Megan, what's up? Thank you. Stage fright. He's like, maybe I don't want to do this. Come on, John. Go ahead and back out. Come back in. All right, he's in still. Hammer. Well, let's see what we can do. Yeah, no, we tested it last night, John. It was all good. I added him right in here, and it was perfect. And then tonight, I don't see him. Can you ask to join? John, please? Other John? What do we got? Oh, I got a little story. Let me touch on this. Oh, there he is. Yes. That's weird. There we go.
Can you hear me?
I got you. I can hear you, and I can see you.
Okay.
All right.
What's up, everybody?
Welcome to Driven. Everybody, this is Jon Miller. He is a founder, and are you a CEO, or you're just the company? You're the show of Backcountry United, and it's a very unique company, and I love it. The thing that caught my attention was cool product that solves a problem for inside your community, but it also serves a greater purpose. And you're doing two things at one point here, and you're probably accomplishing a lot more than I really realized. But let's talk about what is Backcountry United first of all, and then we'll see who John is.
Okay, well, I'll try to sum it up as succinctly as possible, but basically Backcountry United is my creative expression to try to, do something positive for the backcountry winter community at large, and, explore product ideas, find myself as an entrepreneur, make relationships, and do, it's a platform for me to do work that I really care about, and try to give back to the community.
That's what it is. And some great gear, and you saw it. Let's start. So when you thought of Backcountry United, was the serving the community and what you wanted to accomplish with, like, your your role in keeping our lands open, and then you brought a product in around it, or did you think of the product and was it kind of?
Yeah, no, it was all organic.
Yeah.
Kind of everything just built from the last thing, and until I was in a situation where, it just kept opening new doors and creating my voice and new relationships, and and basically it's just been this sort of organic experiment that just continues to find new opportunities and new ways to come to life.
I love it. All right. So we touched on, and then I said it in the intro, stewardship, and that's what I was going to read. I never read the definition. I was going to do that. It's not on here. Never mind. It's on my post, not on my notes. Hey, I named this
Nice.
the title of this show, Stewardship. It's taking care of something you're put in charge of managing or protecting or preserving. And I posed the question, are we talking about the mountains? Or are we talking about life? So I think with Backcountry United and what you're doing, it all kind of comes together. So let's rewind a little bit. Here's Jon, educated, marketing, advertising. What are you doing, and what's pulling at your strings that makes you want to step away from that?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I could just kind of tell my story a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, I just going way back, like I grew up in Northwest Colorado, and my dad was a big sportsman, you know, hunter, fisher, camping. You know, I've probably walked thousands of miles before I was 10 years old, all over Northwest Colorado. And you know, the meat we hunted was what we survived on in the winter. And you know, pretty humble growing up. You know, my dad was also self-employed, and I watched him struggle through that. And you know, sometimes he didn't even have clients that paid him. Sometimes work ran out. And you know, so it's super humble life. And you know, I guess I thought we were poor sometimes. And so that's kind of been a mindset thing, you know, all the way back. But, you know, the public land piece has been ingrained in me since I was 4 years old. You know, like Dad would take me out, and we'd basically live out, you know, kind of where, you know, Wyoming, Utah, and Colorado kind of come to a T, like that little corner of no man's land. And
definitely no man's.
You know, and I was kind of an only child growing up, and so I was kind of left to my devices. Like Dad was the fisherman for the most part. Like he had the patience. He always had his line in the water, and you know, I was out searching for arrowheads and whittling sticks, and you know, chasing varmints and falling in the river. And you know, it was just kind of being creative with myself, you know, out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I guess I didn't realize how special it was until, you know, much later in life. But yeah,
I got a quick story for you there. My mom, we're kind of same thing, very rural bringing ups. She taught me a game to play. She was so tickled. Her and my aunt would play when they were kids, and I remember her telling me the story, and she was getting all excited, and she's like, so what you do is you find a good stick, and you know, about 6, 8, 10 inches, you can't get too big, but find a good stick, and you tie some baling twine to it, and then you sit on the back of the truck wherever you're headed, and you let it hit the ground and flip up. And I'm like, Mom, I don't even know. I don't think that's fun at all. But she was like,
well, it's funny.
It was all we had. And I'm like, So I tried it. I always go back to it when my kid's like, I want a new Nerf gun. And I'm like, I'm going to get you a stick and a piece of baling twine, kid.
Totally. Yeah, it's amazing how much fun a kid with an imagination can, you know, have with almost nothing, you know. So
Yep.
But yeah, so, you know, I was just out on the land as a kid and grew up in a town that was, you know, centered around mining and coal mining and ranching and farming. And, you know, so it's very blue collar, rural area, and super cold. It's like coldest part of the state. And, you know, and so spent most of my life in that area. And I guess sometime in middle school, my dad followed the construction boom to Southern California, and I moved to San Clemente, California, which is a little surf capital on the beach. And, you know, so it was quite the culture shock for me. And, you know, I was fascinated by skateboarding and surfing, and became friends with a lot of people who were in the surf, professional surfers who I was, going to school with, and just skateboarding all the time. And then we moved back to Craig, like after my 8th grade year. And so, I went from like the middle of nowhere to somewhere cool, and then back to the middle of nowhere. And but
be like, Dad, you're messing with my brain here. Come on.
Yeah. But it's funny, when I was in California, they all thought I was cool because I was from Colorado and I was a snowboarder, and so that was kind of my social currency. And I found a huge part of my identity in those couple of years. And when I came back to Colorado, I was this like misfit skate punk kid that everybody knew me from being growing up. Like, we had all known each other since elementary school, and I come back into town with my Misfits t-shirt and my long hair, and skateboarding. And so I was kind of a misfit, I felt like, a little bit in Craig. But Steamboat Springs is 40 minutes to the east of us, and that's where the ski area was, that's where the skate park was. And so I really started to kind of find my connection with the snowboard culture over there in the late 80s and early 90s. And those guys kind of took us under their wing. We were, young Groms, and they were all kind of college aged. And some of these guys were, getting into professional snowboarding and the industry. And I think that was my first glimpse into that you could bring your passion and your career focus like into one place. And there was one guy, Justin, who was a graphic artist, another guy who was a DJ, and so it was just cool to see people being creative. And those guys really inspired me. But I wanted to be an artist like my whole life, and that wasn't an idea that really flew very well in Craig, Colorado back then. Like, I heard from a lot of people, like, what do you mean? Like, you can't be an artist. Like, you don't make money at that. Like, you'll, go get a job at the coal mine, put your head down and get to work, and
Yep.
So I dealt with a lot of that kind of limiting belief stuff, like, early in life. And, thankfully met, people who kind of showed me a glimpse of it. It's been a lifelong experience, kind of like coming out of that. But, that was probably my first taste of like a bigger opportunity.
That's letting your environment basically decide your future. It's like, well, maybe in 1950 you were a little more trapped in your environment, you stayed inside your box, but not anymore. Like, they don't even make boxes anymore at this point, I don't think, because we all outside of them. So yeah, there's a hot lesson for you. Don't let your environment make you think that that's the only thing that's available to you. And I did too, and I can say it because, like, I pictured if I wanted X, Y, and Z, I had to go to the mine and work my way up and become a foreman and get that salary and have the company truck. And like, I thought that was the way to go. Like, that's what people did. And, were doing what I wanted to do.
Yeah. Some people did stick around, and they've lived great lives, and, not knocking, the path that they stayed on. But I knew that, there was something that I needed to pursue. And I probably still don't know what that is 20 years later, but it's definitely led me down this unique path.
You're fine-tuning it still.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I left Craig, Colorado, moved to Glenwood Springs, which is a couple hours south of there. Went to Colorado Mountain College, and took me 3.5 years to get a 2-year degree because I was basically snowboarding and taking minimum credits, and so I could get financial aid. And,
I was gonna go to college in Gunnison so I could do the same thing, as just ski and snowboard the whole time, but I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I did that. And I was actually, my dad, owned a concrete construction company. So I had that trade, out of right out of high school. And, so I'd worked concrete in the Aspen area in the summertime. And, I'd make really good money for a 20-year-old kid doing that work. And so it'd give me enough money that I could kind of get through the winter, with that cash and with financial aid money. And, I was pretty much just a snowboard bum for, a good 3 years there after high school.
Nice.
And,
Nice.
but, I wanted to be an artist. Like I knew that I needed to move to the city and kind of get more education. And so I moved to Denver and went to Rocky Mountain College of Art and Design and studied illustration, and got my bachelor's degree of fine art in basically graphic design and illustration.
Nice.
And pretty much like right out of college, there was a couple of months of desperately searching for a job, but I was lucky enough to get my foot in the door at the big agency in town, like right out of college. And
Nice.
that's where I'd spend the next 15 years of my life, working. So it's been kind of it's funny. I spent almost a good more than a third of my life at one company, which was an awesome experience because it led me to the snowmobile industry. And so yeah, back like around 2004, I think it was, we had an opportunity to pitch for some business for a leading power sports manufacturer, and it was just basically retail marketing. So it wasn't really like the big sexy brand work and all like commercials and stuff like that. It was like sales events. So we were, basically coming up with every new seasonal sales event to sell more, power sports equipment. And anyway, got, basically won that business. And for the next 10 years, I worked for that company. So,
Nice.
yeah. And then, but it was funny because there was an early part of my time at the agency where we started doing some work for Airwalk. Do you remember Airwalk?
Oh yeah. I used to draw the little A's on my notebook in school.
Yeah.
Little
Yeah.
loop
So
in
we
it.
worked with Airwalk for like a year, I think. And I think that was the first time that I really saw like, oh, people actually are making a career out of, their passion for skateboarding and snowboarding.
Yeah.
And so from that, I started like heavily marketing myself and trying to like get a new job in California in the skate or snowboard industry. And had a couple of interviews. I flew out to San Francisco for a job interview with a skateboard company. And it was like the middle of November 2003, I believe. And I'm flying home from that interview, and it was blue skies. There wasn't a cloud in the sky, and I'm flying over the Rocky Mountains like with fresh snow on them. And I'm looking out the window like, what the hell am I doing? Like I need to be near mountains. That's part of who I am, and so it was a pretty clear moment where it was like, okay, I know I don't want to move to California. Like I need to stay in the mountains and figure out like what's next. And so like right after that is when I got into working with Polaris. So
Nice.
yeah, so basically that little piece of business, there was I think 3 of us on the creative team, grew to, by the time I left, I think we had probably 40 people on our team working on the Polaris Industries account, and
Yes.
got to work on Victory motorcycles. We launched like Razor, Ranger, Slingshot. So got to touch a lot of different, new products and be a part of the planning and, creating marketing campaigns and, with some really amazing creative people, so the energy
no
was
doubt.
really cool. And there's lots of travel and got to do, just a lot of really fun video, photo production stuff. And, so it was definitely a really fun job. I felt a lot of purpose in it. I was passionate about it. I think we had really great relationships with those clients, and I felt like it was probably the best opportunity of my life to grow as a professional, as a creative, and but the thing that really hit me was the snowmobile industry. So I got to work on Polaris snowmobiles, and it's funny, like I was exposed to snowmobiling at a young age in Northwest Colorado, and but snowmobiles were something that rich people had, and I never thought I would have the opportunity to own my own snowmobile. And the funny thing that happened when I started working for Polaris was, well, gosh, I have to know the product to know what the heck I'm talking about. Like, nobody's going to believe anything I say if I don't really know what I'm talking about. And so that was a compelling enough excuse that, my wife, bless her heart, allowed me to spend probably more money than I needed to on snowmobiling. But
but babe, it's for work. I this is for work. We could maybe
I'm sure
even
she's watching right now.
We could maybe even write it off. I don't know yet. I'll have to check with
Yeah.
my accountant. I love it. No,
yeah,
dude, that's awesome.
The sled industry was just amazing for so many reasons. And, the biggest thing for me is why I wanted to get the source, H2O.
I had to go, water. Just water tonight.
The biggest reason I wanted to get into snowmobiling was because I wanted to access the backcountry for snowboarding. And, coming from ski country, I knew that so many people were just like me. And the Midwestern snowmobile industry really wasn't paying attention to this insight. And
Dash is cracking me up. I don't know that guy, but I want to know.
Funny.
Love it, man. Love it. Sorry.
No worries, man. Thankfully, snowmobiling hasn't led me to divorce. So, but so just super passionate about the ability to go out into no man's land. I mean, like, we get to dress up like in these space suits and go to unwelcoming, hostile environments that are just so pristine. And I mean, it's literally, it's spiritual. The snowmobilers get to experience something out there that so many people just in this world will never experience. And I was really touched by that. I really found a lot of connection in the snowmobile culture. A lot of sledders tend to be entrepreneurial. They're industrious. They're they just the profile of the snowmobiler is, there's so much awesome in this community because we're kind of out there building camaraderie. We rely on each other for survival. We're just through sheer willpower, accessing amazing places, the skills that are involved to just ride the machine, or, to be able to fix the machine if something goes wrong, to, the learning that's required to be safe in avalanche terrain. I mean, there's just so many facets to snowmobiling that really creates, just something that's truly unique and special that I don't know if it really exists anywhere else in any, like you look at like dirt bike culture, everybody's got their passionate kind of subcultures that pursue their activities or whatever. But I don't know, I just think there's something really unique about snowmobiling.
That Cody right there just hit it on the head. It becomes part of you, and it truly is. Things I've learned on the mountain, things that I was able to share, like just with my family and different friends through snowmobiling, it's irreplaceable and it's untouchable as far as, the bond you can create on the mountain or through the summer talking about going on the mountain.
I think I just gained a ton of inspiration, like, both from actually experiencing such amazing places, physically being able to be immersed in such challenging and pristine environments, but also getting to know such incredible people who, we're adventurers, we're explorers, like we've got a restless spirit. And I think I just kind of found my tribe in the sled culture industry community. But my big thing was still snowboarding.
Okay, so yeah, let's go there.
Yeah, so I really wanted.
You're at a point here. I'll set this up a little bit for you.
Yeah.
You got a career that most people would die to have, love to have. You're in the industry. You're doing what you're doing. And then now you're like, hey, I want to find a way. At that point, you're like, I want to make an impact. I want to make my passion, my job. I want to take this, throw it away, and go into this and make a huge impact and make a living. And let's go. I focus on
in no
mindset.
Particular order.
In however it works, but I want to be doing this and I want to get paid, and not doing this and getting paid. Right. But I talk about mindset a lot on this, because that's kind of what made the shift for me, was just literally knowing that I can go do something if I put in the work, and if I execute, I can do it. So let's talk about the mindset. Okay, I want to go do my passion for a living. Let's go there.
Yeah, well, and first of all, my family really suffered through my advertising career. And, I would say I missed out on the best years of my kids' lives. My wife, bless her heart, we were able to keep her, stay-at-home mom with our 3 kids, during that time. But it really it took a toll on our family, because I was traveling all the time, and I was part of an agency culture that was kind of young and focused around partying, and so it was just it was really a terrible distraction from where my focus should have been on my family. And I had these entrepreneurial visions that I wanted to pursue in action sports and snowboarding, and so I created Backcountry United initially as a Facebook page. The first year I went up to Alaska, and the intention was to simply bring ski, snowboard, and sled content into one feed and build an audience around it. And at the time, it was just all about like proving to my clients and everybody else that I had been pouring my soul out for, that there was an insight here, that there was something there. So it was really kind of an effort to start realizing, even if it was just planting a seed, like realizing that concept as a potential and viable market. So essentially it was like a sales opportunity. Oh yeah. And it was a way for me to express my vision creatively. Like the logo, the Backcountry United logo. I'm going to use this hard drive with a sticker on it. The concept is there's a bird kind of disguised in the spine, and the idea is that you discover your freedom in the backcountry. And so I came up with this mark, and I'm like,
drop some hearts on that now. Come on, people, blow that one
crazy up. So I have all these crazy product ideas and content ideas, and and I'm working with some of the top snowmobile athletes in the world, pioneers of the sport. I got to work with some of my heroes like Chris Barant and Dan Adams and Paul Thacker, Randy Sherman, Matt Entz, like all these guys that were just pioneering what was possible on snowmobiles. And I'm consulting with them, like kind of giving them my thoughts on building their brands, and they're all starting up their own businesses kind of during this time. So I'm being influenced by their entrepreneurial efforts as well. And so there's all this stuff going on. And, I guess one thing led to another. And I came to a crux where my family was suffering. I had hit a dead end at the corporate ladder. Actually that was the year that Obamacare went live and our health insurance like doubled overnight. So I was financially just like getting crunched between all of these aspects. And in that kind of moment, I was disrupted by somebody who's become an amazing inspiration and spiritual guide for me, a guy by the name of Jeff Hawksworth. And he started Skins Protective Gear. Dan Adams had introduced me to him like a year prior. And, I was trying to get these guys in as like a side hustle, like a freelance client. And he and his wife stopped by our house in Denver, kind of in the middle of this, like, crisis, like financial, spiritual crisis that my family was going through. And, it's funny, like he didn't care about what I was trying to talk to him about. His goal with me was like, well, what's going on in your life? Like, where is your heart? Like he kind of helped me, he started getting into talking from the perspective of God and bringing, a religious perspective into it, which I was raised Mormon. I didn't want to talk about, Christianity and faith and all these things. And, but, he said it to me in a way, and he talked to me about prayer, and he really helped me see things in a different way, a way that I had never seen them before, as far as like having an inner dialogue with the source, with my spirit, kind of tapping into like, his challenge for me was to discover your hidden transgressions and pray for your purpose. And literally overnight, it changed my life. Like I just started tuning into a different frequency, I guess. And
I love it.
Within a month of that, I quit my job. Really with no plan. Probably the biggest thing that pushed me was my wife said that the agency was making me an asshole, and if I didn't leave the agency, like she'd leave me. And that was a pretty big wake up call. And so yeah, I like pretty much walked in on a Monday morning and told my boss that it was time for something else. And they were all floored because I had been there for, on that business for 10 years. I had solid relationships. They knew how passionate I was about the business. Frankly, I didn't want to stop working with Polaris, but I had to separate myself from the agency situation. And so, and I'll never forget when he said, well, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I'm going to build Backcountry United. And he's like, your Facebook page? And I'm like, yeah, and I'm trying to like look confident, but like inside I'm just like, holy shit, what am I doing? And so, within a month, I had a new gig that with a 25% raise. I discovered a 401k that I didn't know existed. We bought a house and we were kind of off to the races again, like by the end of the year. So like 2 months time. And the first client I started working on in the new agency, a smaller agency in Denver called Spin, was the U.S. Forest Service and Vail Resorts. And so all these, thoughts that I had around ski, snowboard, and public lands access, it was like the universe literally served up exactly what I was like praying about, dreaming about, etc.
This whole, like the whole thing, just the way it happens, it affects a lot of people. So I want to go back a little bit real quick, because had that conversation happened in your front room at a different time, say a year prior, say 2, 5, 10 years prior, you might not have heard it. You might, like, thanks, man. I appreciate all that advice, but it wouldn't, it might not have registered. And I can say it because I've had these conversations about things and it didn't register. I didn't hear it, but now I hear it. Now I see it because it's the right time. But
Right.
everything, the teacher, everything kind of, it's not everything falls into place, but opportunities will present themselves when they need to happen, basically. And I find myself, I'll worry a little bit. I'll worry about stuff. And I'm like, and I got to check myself up. I'm like, okay, if I'm taking action and I'm making steps towards the end of it, then why am I worrying about it? Worrying ain't going to solve anything. But like, it's just cool that it worked out. You had the conversation in your dining room when you needed to have it. An opportunity for a new agency came up when you needed it. And I love it, man. I love that story. I love how it just gets closer and closer to where you wanted to go. So I wanted to go back and revisit on that real quick.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. The universe, and I've found this to be a recurring theme. I've been kind of out on my own for the last 4 years almost now. And, there's been some harrowing moments where I'm like, rent, the mortgage is due in 2 weeks and I have no idea how I'm going to come up with $2,000 like right now. And somehow, we've been able to make it work for the last 4 years. And, the universe always seems to provide, right when you need it. But, I think you have to be ready to accept, you have to be tuned into the right frequency. You have to let go of the fear. A great mentor told me one time that I hold on to all the time is, freedom is on the other side of fear.
Mm-hmm,
And,
mm-hmm.
So whenever I'm feeling like everything's falling apart, I'll just force myself to go to a different place and try to visualize, what success looks like, but more importantly, like what it feels like what's the feeling like if I accomplish this goal, like how will that make me feel? And visualizing that feeling, and the sort of the circumstances around achieving that feeling, I've found to be like a really powerful way to make things happen that you just would have never imagined could possibly happen. The universe has just a weird way of, if you put your intention out there and your motives are pure, it always works out. So
it provides.
Yeah. So yeah, it was funny. Like right after I quit my job, it's funny. It's so funny. Literally, this is literally what happened. I walked into my boss's office. I quit my job. My biggest passion for years had been like trying to get, our clients to bring, snowboarding into it as like a fringe market.
A thing, yeah.
And it was really hard to like get people to pay attention to that idea. I walked back to my cubicle after quitting my job, open up my computer, email pops up. Literally the first email that like comes up, like I watched it populate on the screen from Skidoo that announced this big Burton Skidoo partnership.
Burton edition.
And I was just like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, why? Like if I would have quit my job, waited like 1 week, I probably could have like built on that, and got some trajectory or whatever. But it happened exactly when it needed to happen. I forwarded that email to Jeff at Skins, and I was like, man, can you believe this? Because I was just crushed when I saw it. And he responded, with one sentence, what do you want to do now? And so I started feeding him my product concepts, and we were prototyping. We were off to the races, and so that was so Backcountry United kind of took this like product development turn that I didn't see coming. And so there's that side of it where basically trying to create innovations that help the skier snowboarder maximize the potential of the snowmobile as an access tool. And so So that's kind of going on in the background now,
Mm-hmm.
while I'm still, doing my, working at a new agency as a creative director, learning about the ski industry from the inside of, Vail Resort's perspective. Got to work on Breckenridge ski area, Vibram. They make the really high end soles for, all sorts of different footwear.
Mm-hmm.
So they were a pretty fun client. And, the other cool thing that was happening was I was starting to connect to the local Denver creative community as well. Because before I was working with, people in California and Minnesota predominantly. So I didn't have a lot of network connections like within the Denver creative community.
Yep.
So that was a really awesome kind of hidden gem in that as well. Started building that network and reconnecting with, people I knew, but, got to like hire people I wanted to work with. And
That's cool.
so that was fun. And but then another twist happened like a year into that job. Vail Resorts brought all their creative work in-house and we lost that client. And so, basically I was back to like, okay, I can hang on for dear life at a company again, or, I took a leap before, I'll just do it again. And it was funny, the second time I quit my job was way easier than the first time.
It gets easier after the first time. If you're just tuning in, thank you again. I'm Scott. This is Jon Miller. He's from Backcountry United. Would it be classified as like an accessory company to snowmobiles? Do you have
I don't know.
Classify yourself in something? He makes some badass stuff. He makes some great stuff for snowmobilers, for backcountry skiers and boarders to access the backcountry, and he has a great cause and a great passion behind the company where he can devote some time to. So Jon Miller, Backcountry United, connect with him. Scott Spiro, put me as a C first so you don't miss an episode of Driven. All right, commercial break. I love it.
You have commercial breaks?
That was it. You just heard my commercial.
Oh, nice.
Tell people who we are. It's real official.
Yeah, so, back to the Forest Service piece, like I found myself like working with the Forest Service, developing a campaign. We had a media opportunity with the 2015 FIS World Cup Ski Championships at Beaver Creek Resort. And I don't know if you've ever seen this event, but basically they built a Super Bowl football stadium into the National Forest for this race. The scale of it is global and it's pretty immense. I had no idea until we actually went live with the campaign that we developed. Basically I wrote a tagline that stuck, called "It's All Yours." And the premise was, essentially we take our national forests for granted. Whether you actually get out there and access it and know about the experience of being out there, all the way down to if you are an inner city underprivileged, community, like it's where your water and your clean air comes from. We're literally all connected by the National Forest. And, it
I'm
really
gonna steal
blew my mind.
I'm going to steal a question from you right now that was in your Colorado podcast, radio podcast you did. Drop in the comments, listeners, what is your favorite national forest? The name of it. Drop it in the comments.
Love that.
And then I got one quick question for you, and I hate to interrupt, but I love it.
That's okay.
At the same time, what is the largest national forest? And what state is it in?
I would guess Alaska or Montana.
Nah. Humboldt-Tiobe, Nevada is the largest national forest in the United States. Right here in Nevada. Treeless, desert, Nevada is the largest national forest. Little tidbit for you.
Benny Brappo.
Don't write that one. You write your other favorite one that everybody knows about. Okay, sorry,
That's awesome.
we got a little sidetracked there. We're running pretty long, by the way, too, so it's all fun. We're
Yeah.
having a good time. I hope everybody's enjoying this. Again, thank you guys for your time. If you just jumped on, share this out. If you're catching it in the middle, when we're done, go back and watch it from the beginning. Game on.
So yeah, our national forest, I started realizing like how precarious our very access is, how precarious the health of the forest is. I'm seeing the sort of the outdoor retailer kind of human powered crowd organizing and getting a lot of traction from the wilderness closure front. Places that my dad took me to as a little kid, like I can't take my kids there anymore. So there's the wilderness side, but then there's also the natural extraction, industrial side of and privatization too. So we're kind of backcountry recreation is coming to a pretty critical moment in history where we're getting squeezed out between protecting the land, which we should protect a lot of land, don't get me wrong. That's probably where I do align with a lot of human powered perspective is the wilderness that does exist, cool, let's protect that, keep it, let's not develop it, let's not destroy it. We should certainly honor the qualities of what the wilderness provides. On the flip side, we've got industrialization, again, for our own sovereignty as a nation, we do have to extract resources, I believe. However, I don't agree with, we shouldn't be putting a coal mine in the middle of a, beautiful national forest that, the community appreciates. And then there's privatization. So, billionaires moving to Colorado and buying huge swaths of land that, basically border national forests and can cut off our access that way. So, basically the public is getting squeezed out of our access to our public lands. And when I started to kind of see more of a global perspective around what's happening to our national forests from a political standpoint, talk about a big goal to try to influence. This goal is so out of my reach that I don't even know how to begin executing towards it, except to basically respond to the universe. And when things, opportunities come that I can lend my unique perspective and skills and passion and relationships and, basically my toolbox of existence to, doing something positive for the public and for our public lands, that's where I start looking inward and saying, okay, I have these relationships. I understand how media works. I've created campaigns, awareness campaigns. I've got access to influencers and, and I have this unique perspective where I've looked at it from a lot of different angles. I found myself in Washington, D.C. last summer for a week in a room full of U.S. Forest Service leadership. And I realized that I had a very unique perspective in that room. And likewise, I realized what a vast management challenge the U.S. Forest Service has in serving all the people of the United States.
That's no small
lands.
feat.
Right. So, anyway, that campaign that we started with the FIS World Ski Championships actually got a lot of eyeballs and kind of created a little bit of traction and got another budget middle of last summer to create more content. And I had, the coolest opportunity to basically say, hey guys, like, instead of just making a video, let's think about tapping into my network and see if we can, bring some heavy media influencers into this. And You know, one of my biggest action sports heroes in the world is Travis Rice. I followed his career for many years, and you know, his role in just what he's done for snowboarding, and his kind of grounded, humble perspective. I've just really connected with that character over the years, and he's a snowmobiler, you know, and so I had the opportunity to work with my, you know, some of my heroes in making this piece of content, so I don't know if you guys go to www or here, actually I can type it in, can't I? It's all yours.us.
It's all yours. We can throw it in we'll throw it in after. Okay. It'll show up at the end right now when so all the replay viewers will see it.
Okay. So yeah.
www.itsyourland.
No, www.itsallyours.us.
It's all yours.us.
And so there's a 3-minute video piece in there with Travis Rice, Brian Iguchi, Conrad Anker, who's become, you know, kind of an icon from a public lands perspective. He's a mountain climbing pioneer. Jimmy Chin, professional skier, National Geographic photographer, rock climber. Brad Christian, he's the brand manager for Sitka Gear. So they're a hunting equipment company. Camille Egdorf, she's a professional fly fishing guide and Yeti athlete. And Meredith June Edwards, she's a pro skier and marathon trail runner. So we got to bring a lot of perspectives into this content. It wasn't just your typical REI, like, you know, hey, we're camping, you know, and hiking, you know. It was like,
join our forest.
We're hunting, we're fishing, we're snowmobiling, you know, it showed a variety of, you know, cultures, and, you know, so we really strive to have diversity of, you know, male, female, you know, ethnicity, multi-use, you know, and to try to tell like a more holistic story about like what our national forests mean, and, you know, to hear it from each one of those influencers' perspectives. And then we launched the content during the Outdoor Retailer show here in Denver back in January. And I think the coolest part of it was, are you aware of Winter Wildlands Alliance?
Yep.
They're so, you know, they're not exactly popular in the snowmobile community. They've been a big push behind the wilderness agenda, and I think they're most infamous for pushing snowmobiling off-trail snowmobiling out of Yellowstone. You know, right or wrong, whatever. I'm not getting into politics. But what I thought was super cool was at the end of the Outdoor Retailer show, they had a film festival, and we had the It's All Yours 3-minute PSA up on a big screen in front of the, you know, the Winter Wildlands crowd with Travis Rice off-trail snowmobiling. And I thought it was a great stake in the ground to show like these national forests are literally for everybody. And, you know, but, you know, it comes with a responsibility. If we don't pay attention to what's going on out there, I mean, it's all just going to go away, and we're going to be left, you know, thinking like, man, that used to be fun, you know, like our grandkids.
I mean, the thing about it is, it's 24 hours a day. People are brainstorming and they're working to create more wilderness. They're working to close off access all year long, you know, 24 hours a day, and a lot of money behind it too. And it's their purpose. It's their reason. Go on with it. Do your thing. It's what you're passionate about. I love it. I embrace it. But on the opposite side of that is we need to 24 hours a day be working to keep stuff open too. And I'm very outside looking into it, but sure, it seems like when we stop using it in the winter, we almost stop talking about it. But then when we're using it in real,
I was going to say, I think probably the biggest kind of overarching thought that I've come to a conclusion on is if we protect the land to the point that humanity has no access to it, it's out of sight, out of mind, and we will never fight to protect it. You know, if you look at, you know, I think about Denver. So I saw a U.S. Forest Service projection map of the Front Range of Colorado for the year 2050. The Denver metro area will be the #1 largest megalopolis in the United States. Everybody's coming here for an outdoor lifestyle, for the sunshine, the snow, etc. But I mean, imagine Denver bigger than New York City, and imagine the mountains being so protected that you can see them from, you know, from the heart of the city, but we have no idea what's on the other side of that ridge. You know, we don't know where our water comes from. We don't know where the, you know, the air quality comes from. You know, I think that would be, so it's like, it's a balance thing. You know, it's like, we've got to protect it, but we have to steward it. We have to pay attention to it, you know, and stewardship can come to life in all sorts of different ways. Like, it can be as little as picking up other people's trash out there. It could be, you know, hazing one of your dumbass buddies who, you know, blew his clutch belt and is leaving, you know, a blown up clutch belt, like in the backcountry. Like, you know, just like, we've got to take care of these lands, and we've got to start spreading the idea amongst our snowmobile culture that if we don't take care of it, and if we don't kind of change our language around how important the lands are and how much care they need, we're, you know, it's like my kids. Like, if my son doesn't take out the trash, you know, like, I take away his privileges. You know, when my kids fight over something, I take that thing away. And that's exactly what's going to happen on the trajectory we're on with this divide between the extreme human powered representation and the, you know, the extreme thick-headed redneck that, you know, thinks that we can just do whatever the hell we want because we always have. Like, there's got to be a balance in between those two areas where, and I think that the majority of all of us, of the public, kind of fall in this like bigger gray area. And I think it's the extreme fringe on each side that we all get caught in the middle of. And so, you know, I think a big part of Backcountry United, it's like, I could have called this John's Totally Awesome Snowboard Rack Company.
That would have been a killer name.
But I wanted to build a brand that, like, while I'm building a brand, I might as well build a message into it that means something, that, you know, is actionable for people. And, you know, you don't even have to buy my stuff. Like, if you like what we're doing and you're following our, you know, our content, and you hear a message like this, you know, around, you know, public land stewardship and advocacy, you know, if you get involved with, you know, trail building, you know, efforts, or, you know, I volunteered on the Vail Pass Task Force for a year and a half. Like, you know, like, I'm not out there like making trails or, you know, digging ditches, but like, you know, I'm using my unique skill set to do something that I hope is positive for, you know, for the future. So, you know, that's kind of the stewardship angle on Backcountry United. Like,
love it.
We also care as a sideline about avalanche awareness as well. That's another big focus of mine. And unfortunately, we lost a sledder in Breckenridge yesterday, and it just, you know, that renews my my passion to, you know, try to find a way to influence our backcountry culture to get avalanche training and all that as well. So, you know, essentially this whole brand idea is built around mutual respect. So, you know, if I'm respecting you and you're respecting me, even though our opinions may not align, but we can have a civil discourse and share ideas, you know, and I think that's the biggest problem between the human powered and motorized like divide is like, you know, it's just like this liberal conservative thing. It's like, you know, if you don't align with my values, like, I'm not even listening to you, and I'm just going to call you names like I'm a 2-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah. Which
you
we
know,
could go into a whole nother
totally.
conversation about how to intermingle and intermix in those disciplines, and we might have to have a part 2 for that.
Yeah, but I guess, you know, the coolest thing that I've found in all this is I've had a lot of uncomfortable conversations with people that I don't align with, but when you do it respectfully, you'd be amazed at how far that can go for all of us, you know. So I see myself as a representative of our sport and our industry and our culture.
Thank you.
You know, I don't know how like successful or financially viable this whole thing is, but I'll tell you the relationships that I've made and the opportunities that have come out of it are priceless. And, you know, I think this is literally just the beginning. You know, like my little girl was learning how to ride her bicycle without training wheels tonight. And I was just thinking to myself, like, I'm kind of in that same position as an entrepreneur, as an avalanche advocate, as a public lands advocate. And, you know, we've got to kind of wobble around and maybe fall down a few times. But if we're committed to it, you know, you start finding your balance. And I think that's kind of the position I'm in right now, is like the training wheels are off, you know, I'm starting to get some momentum and
speed wobbles,
you know, but
they got some speed wobbles.
I'm still not into second gear. So, you know, to be continued.
Well, brother, I absolutely love your story. Thank you, first off, for sharing it. You went into some pretty cool stuff there, man. I do appreciate that. But your story, your cause, everything, dude, you are, and like Jon says, best driven yet. And I gotta say it too, man.
Oh,
like,
thanks, guys.
This is driven, and this is why this show was created, was to get messages like this out, especially inside of our community. Like, to see you face to face. It's one thing to, you know, back and forth on a post with somebody about something, but and this goes into the conversations you said about like using the intermix and stuff with the other disciplines that use the National Forest. It's being able to meet you and being able to see you and be able to hear this conversation and see where you're coming from. Is the power is huge. And we have a tool, you know, Mark Zuckerberg messed up this week. He'll fix it. It's all right. But again, thank you, Mark, for having the ability to do this. We press play and we're able to get your story out and share your story. So thank you for taking the time out to do that tonight. And you are driven. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh man, thank you so much. I'm just blessed to be a part of all of it. And
so we never got to hit question 3, and I want to hit it really quick because it was cool. So you touched on a mentor, you touched on things you've accessed and people you've pulled from, but there's one person that keeps you going when the roller coaster ride gets a little too low at times, and definitely bring you down when the roller coaster is at the top. So let's give some shout outs and let people know you appreciate them.
Yeah. So number one is my wife, Candace, my kids, you know, God or the universe, however you want to define the idea of spirituality. Like those, without that, I wouldn't be here. I certainly wouldn't have a family if it wasn't for my wife's, you know, faith and confidence and who I am. I mean, she says it all the time. Like, I believed in you before you believed in yourself. And that's still true every single day.
That's awesome.
Especially now that I'm in such a raw and, you know, precarious space as a self-employed person. You know, so gosh, there's so many people, dude. Like, honestly, it'd probably take another hour. But you know, I hope they all know who they are. I've got sponsors and brand partners, and you know, so many people have just in this industry have just given me so many opportunities, and you know, I really am doing my best to honor all of it and keep it going, and you know, make everybody proud. And, but yeah, you guys all know who you are, and love everybody, and really appreciate the opportunity to come on like this.
I appreciate you, man, and I'm stoked to be connected with you now. Like, you shared some stuff with me tonight. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna have to run some questions by him off the live. some stuff I got going on. So, man,
Anytime.
thank you. You guys connect with Jon if you haven't yet, and go to Backcountry United. Like that page, like those posts, share that content out, and do your part, man. Do your part. Share with care.
Yeah. If anybody has any questions on what they can do to get involved, I've got a million ideas, and definitely want to make a difference, and that can only happen when people are getting on board with each other, and we got to get organized, and we got to align, and find our voice, and change perceptions of the snowmobile industry. We're good people who work hard, and we care about people, helping people, and I think a lot of people see us as robots in the backcountry that make noise, and so let's take our helmets off and talk to people, and take the high road constantly, and get involved in public discourse, and public meetings, and pay attention to new trail management, and wilderness proposals, and let district rangers hear your voices, and use the media, and there's just so many things that we need to do if we really value our sport. We've got to take ownership of it, because the industry just wants to sell you more snowmobiles. We as a community need to fight for what we love, and that's being out there and sharing these amazing places with one another.
Dude, love it. Love it.
So.
All right, bonus question before we wrap up here. I watched a video just the other day. I couldn't do it. Bonus question: have you ever ghost rode your sled down while you were snowboarding next to it?
Not next to it, but yes, I've ghost ridden my sled, and we live in Colorado, so there's a lot of trees, and we kind of stay off our upper alpine terrain typically, because it's such an avalanche danger. So that's like kind of a BC or Alaska thing to do. But, I did do it one time, and I blew up my clutch. So it didn't work out so well for me.
I love it. Yeah, there was a video that I saw the other day on Facebook, and he went a long ways. I was just like, only up there it's possible, I guess.
Was that the Dan Treadway video?
Is that he had the GoPro on his sled and he was filming him out in front?
Yeah.
That was sick. I'm like, and then he stopped, and it stopped right there, and I'm like,
so
go back up and do it again.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right, brother. Thank you so much. You got anything else you want to wrap up with? If not.
Yeah, I mean, I could keep you online for hours. Like, there's so much content here. Maybe we could do a follow-up, and I'd be happy to, maybe we could, I've got 4 tenets of the brand. It's stewardship, which is what we were trying to focus on tonight. Education is, the avalanche awareness side of things. Respect is all about, mutual respect, between user groups, and innovation, which, is kind of the last but not least. That's me trying to learn how to, make money doing all of this stuff.
Let's do it, dude. Here, you want to talk, let's do a 4-part series. I'll say it right now. We kind of did stewardship here, but I love this. Tons of engagement. I think the audience loves it. We'll, as this cycles through the people's news feed, we'll really see if they enjoyed it. But I'm saying 4-part series. We'll go into stewardship again, and we'll hit all 4 of them, and we'll compress them, make a good piece of content for you to have in your bag,
cool.
to share to your profile and stuff. And let's do it, man.
Awesome.
Press play on it.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity. All
right. I love it. We'll get to work on it. We don't know when it's coming. It's not going to happen right now, but within the month, probably we'll do some. So, all righty, man. Appreciate it.
Cool,
you have a
brother.
great night. Great rest of your week.
Thanks, everybody, for coming on.
I appreciate you all, and you know how I wrap these up. And if anybody's a case in point of this message to prove to you that it is possible, from no matter where you're at in your life, no matter where, all it takes is a decision. You can make the decision to do and go and be anything you want to be. It just takes some hard work, and it definitely takes some time, But just remember, you have it in you. You are strong enough. I have it in me. I am strong enough, and I can do it because I am driven. So is Jon. All right, you guys have a great night. Love you. Thanks for all the interaction.
Thank you.